Good evening. Welcome to Grand Blanc Township Board meeting for Tuesday, December 10th. If we could all rise for the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Clerk Robertson, will you please call the roll?
I would be happy to call the roll, Mr. Supervisor. Trustee Fink is absent. Trustee White?
Here.
Trustee Hugo?
Here.
Trustee Raridan?
Here.
Treasurer Yancho?
Here.
Myself, of course, I'm here. Supervisor Bennett?
Yes.
6 members present, a quorum.
Thank you, and I'll entertain a motion for approval of the agenda. Motion by Ms. Hugo, support by Dr. Raridan.
Motion by Hugo, supported by Raridan on the agenda. Trustee White?
Yes.
Trustee Raridan?
Yes.
Trustee Hugo?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Treasurer Yancho?
Yes.
Supervisor Bennett?
Yes.
6-0, motion passes.
Thank you. And now we will move to public comments, and we'll start out with Mr. Troy Otto.
Can he go first? I was going to speak after.
Sure. I take it David Lachot?
Good evening. My name is David Leshak. I have lived in Grand Blanc all of my adult life. And for the last 43 years or so, I've been in the gas station business. During that time, I have owned more than 30 different locations in Genesee, Oakland, and Livingston counties. I've also built more than 15 locations, and that includes 8 new-to-industry gas stations where there was never a business or anything before. I come to you today because I have a personal interest in the vacant piece of land which I've owned for probably 36 years, located at the interchange of I-75 and North Holly Road in Grand Blanc. It's directly across from the Culvers or the existing new BP station that used to be a Sunoco. I'm here obviously because we're talking about a gas station distance location issue, that you might put some restrictions on that. And I just wanted to let the board know that if I were to look at a map of Grand Blanc Township and pinpoint the absolute best location for a gas station, my location would be number one. There would be none better. And I could give you many different reasons as to what and why I would say that. But it's an expressway location. It is an inbound to the city of Grand Blanc. And that is a site that I've had for 36 years because I wanted someday to build a fabulous gas station. That's my business, that's my knowledge, and I feel very confident in that. So, when I heard that the restriction issue might be a mile, might be 2 miles, then obviously I got very concerned. There's a station located across the street. So I just wanted to point out just a couple of things I've read that are concerning to me as you look at possible things, knowing that my possible restrictions, knowing that my location is as good as it gets. The gas station business has gone full circle. It's changed more than anyone can imagine when you compare certain businesses with certain businesses. But I think some of the concerns of the township were located next to a residential area gas station. Another concern that I read about was that if you had a gas station and it closes, that business, it's hard to get it converted to something else. I've read that the planner said that once you get a gas station, it's very hard to get it out of there, to get that use out of there. And I just want to point out that there were a few locations that I was involved in at one time in my life that I can tell you were gas stations and were now currently not gas stations. For example, the former Mobil gas station at the corner of Fenton and Hill in Grand Lake Township, it houses now the Rite Aid store, which obviously is closed, but that shows that you have a different change there. Across the street, used to be a MSI gas station there at Fenton and Hill. It's currently a McDonald's. Down the street there at Hill Road and Porter Road, if anyone's been around the township a long time, you'll remember that used to be a 76 gas station, right where the Halo Burger is now, and that certainly has changed. I think the things that I would point out that maybe haven't been really thought a lot about is, when you get to a gas station, is that safety is a big concern. And at the Planning Commission meeting a couple of weeks ago that I watched online, one of the commissioners talked about safety in the fact that the getting in and out of the station, because you'd have less stations at particular locations, is a concern that one commissioner had. There wasn't a lot of discussion about it, but he brought it up, and I couldn't agree more. And I'll just give you a couple of examples. If you ever go into the McDonald's BP located at Holly and 75, and you ever think about leaving that site and turning left, that's suicide, okay? And I know that very well, firsthand knowledge. Same thing at Sunoco across the way, now it's another BP there by Culver's. Turn left out of those places and they're bad. And this commissioner at the Planning Commission brought up, it might be a bad idea to restrict distances from people building new gas stations when you consider that traffic movement will change, and when they're forced to only go to one location or two locations. So
We're over the 3 minutes, so if you can wrap up your comments here.
okay. All right. In general, I would just say thank you for the time. The installation or potentially installation of the distance for the gas stations in the township, I believe, is unfair, un-American, and potentially discriminatory, and I wish you guys wouldn't do it. I really do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Leshock. Okay, Troy Otto. Yeah, just a reminder, we got a 3-minute.
Yep. Hello, my name's Troy Otto. Am I ready? Is the timer started?
What's that? You're good.
Okay, gotcha. I'm commenting on the same gas station, and granted, I have jumped into this a little bit late, so I don't know what type of public discussion, happened before this. But the few points that I would like to make that's frustrating is that you have, and I don't know the details of what exactly you're considering, but when you implement a policy like this, and I don't know how much notice was given to property owners, but people have, incurred considerable expense pursuing, in this location in particular. It's not affected by a neighbor. It's not, we got too many gas stations in the neighbor. It's literally right off the expressway, so if people that have incurred thousands of dollars to develop plans to develop a site like this that it's zoned for, and then then they submit the plans and they're told, well, there's going to be a moratorium, so we're not even going to consider it. I don't think that's, there, as far as I'm concerned, it hasn't been implemented yet, so to not even consider something because of something that might happen, might not even be legal. In addition to that, any time there's a blanket policy, there's going to be exceptions that it just doesn't make sense. So maybe there's a situation in a neighborhood, there's 3 gas stations, you don't want one. But any time that you implement a broad policy where it affects multiple things, it's always should be done on a case-by-case basis, whether, a gas station might be right here, it might not be here. But when you do a blanket restriction, all you're really doing is preventing economic growth in your community. So I don't understand why a community would want to turn away, a potential, $5 million investment into its community. It just doesn't make sense to me. Now, maybe there's good reasons for a particular site, like, just doesn't work here. We already have 3, the neighborhood doesn't support it, it's close to a church, but to just, you're looking at a property that's just itching to be developed, and if it's not gonna be a gas station, what is it gonna be, a fast food restaurant? Is that somehow better? I mean, you're looking at a piece of property off of a expressway, so, what are the possible, there's already some hotels, so why is a gas station bad, but McDonald's okay? So I don't know, and again, I wasn't here for all the discussion, so I'm not exactly too sure why, but at a minimum, I think you should provide some notice and some type of grandfather provision for plans that have already been submitted, so that, people that have incurred expenses with there being no restriction aren't hurt by this new ban. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we also have Julia Smith. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Julia Smith, and I'm actually here representing the Grand Blanc Little League. Thank you for your time. My purpose for attending this meeting is twofold. First and foremost, we'd like to familiarize the Township Board with the Grand Blanc Little League and all the hard work we've been doing in recent years to enhance the quality of baseball that we're providing to the youth of Grand Blanc and the surrounding areas. Secondly, we're here to ask you, the Township Board, for some relief in our rental costs at Bicentennial. In 2024, the Grand Blanc Little League provided a place for 494 baseball players and 69 softball players to call home for the spring, summer, and fall seasons. We are the largest Little League in Genesee County and one of the larger leagues within our district, which extends as far south as Clawson. Despite the size of our league, our numbers have been declining, which has been the trend in recreational sports over the past decade, largely in part to elite travel organizations. And it should be noted that everyone has a spot in the Grand Blanc Little League. If a family cannot afford to play, we will find the funds and waive their fees. Despite the decline in our numbers, the experience and value the players are receiving has increased. When I began my journey as a coach and board member with the Grand Blanc Little League, the league scheduled 4 practices for each team, and they would get 10 to 12 games, depending on the division of play. We would send 1 team to represent the league in the Little League International World Tournament, and that team would handily be eliminated in their first 2 games. There was very little difference between what was taught at the T-ball level and the coach pitch level, and then players would move onto player pitch baseball, which was a significant jump in what they were expected to know and accomplish. Since then, since I came on in 2020, the league has extended the length of their season, added in practice, so now teams get at least 8 practices, plus their 10 to 12 games. We've introduced more baseball rules to the younger players. We created a division to bridge the gap between machine and player pitch. We've introducing pitching at a younger age, which will help prepare the players for the upper divisions of play. The league also has age-appropriate metrics for the coaches to use as a guide, to what the players should be learning. These metrics were provided to us by Grand Blanc High School varsity coach hubs. We are beginning to see the fruits of our labor. The league has increased the number of teams we send to the international tournament, and we saw our first wins at the district level since 2019, when the league partnered with the local travel organization. We also have started a tournament division called the Grand Blanc Battle Cats, which combines weekend travel baseball with Little League during the week. We've done this to help strengthen the Little League and retain players. Along with making advancements for baseball, in 2021, the Grand Blanc Little League partnered with Grand Blanc Parks and Rec to help revitalize a recreational softball program. We did this by voting to add softball to our charter. I get 5 minutes, right? As an organization.
As you're for a group, yes.
Yep.
You're representing a group.
Uniforms, equipment, umpires are all handled by Grand Blanc Parks and Rec, but the registration is done through the Grand Blanc Little League making the teams officially Little League teams. This allows the players to compete against other local leagues and allows them to compete in the Little League International Tournament as well. The GBLL recoups its charter, insurance, and credit card fees, and then passing the remaining amount on to the Parks and Rec. In 2023, the girls' majors all-star team won the district tournament and then went on to the state tournament where they were eliminated. In 2024, a senior softball team swept the state tournament and then represented Grand Blanc in the Little League Senior Softball Regional Tournament in Kentucky. They went 3-2 before being eliminated. Had they won, the next step would have been the Little League World Series, Senior Softball Little League World Series. So needless to say, there are big things on the horizon for the Grand Blanc Little League. In 2022, we paid $15 for a practice field, $35 for a game prep field. In 23, the cost went up to $30 for a practice field and $60 for a game prepped field. And then recently, the board voted to increase the cost of a practice field to $50 and a game prep field to $65. This will cost the Little League an additional $2,500 this spring if the player estimations are as expected. So to be fully transparent here, if you provide relief or not, we're going to end up paying the fees, right? There is no Grand Blanc Little League without bicentennial. That being said, that $2,500 could be the difference in whether the Little League hosts part of the Little League International Tournament, bringing those teams from Clawson and Birmingham and Commerce up here to play at bicentennial, or not. I mean, we have to buy like $2,500, that's our safety budget, right? Like that's ice packs and first aid kits. We have to provide those. We don't have to host a tournament, but we'd like to. So in the spirit of recreational sports, we hope that you guys choose to provide us with a little bit of relief.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no further public comment, we'll close public comment and bring it to the board here. And, let's see here.
Approval of the consent agenda, unless we have some recognition. on that.
Yeah, I'm not sure, we've got recognition on here twice, I don't know.
I think that might be.
Okay, we're going to cross out number 5. Approval of the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion for approval of the consent agenda, if somebody cares to make that motion. Mr. Yancho, Treasurer
Motion by
Yancho makes,
Yancho.
supported by Dr. Reardon.
Dr. Reardon, support for the consent agenda. Trustee Hugo.
Yes.
Trustee Reardon.
Yes.
Trustee White.
Yes.
Treasurer Yancho.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
6-0, motion passes.
Thank you. Under old business, with regard to strategic planning, we will be having our session scheduled already for January 13th, and also on Saturday, April 5th. I know one board member who said they couldn't make it on the 13th, but we've got to move ahead with it regardless. So unless anybody has any concerns with those, we're going to still forge ahead. Anything to input on that, Mr. Lehman?
April 5th, I just want to remind the board, it is a Saturday, so it's a work session for a Saturday. How long that takes will really just be up to you guys. The facilitator will be Dr. Lou Bender again.
Right.
And, we can start whenever, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning, and be out in the afternoon by whenever you guys feel that you've had enough for one day.
Okay. So I think the survey results, we want to be looking at that, and we can look at
Correct.
our previous strategic plan and the list of accomplishments and maybe what hadn't been accomplished yet. And see how it goes.
What's going to come out of there is what you guys decide is, just like you did with the last 4-year strategic plan, what you want us to accomplish over the next 4-year term with the newly seated board. And so it's an important day. And I think you're right, Mr. Supervisor, that the community survey that you guys did earlier this year will be integral in taking a look at what the residents are asking you to move forward.
Okay, moving on to new business. First item on the agenda, the board will consider a motion to approve the Tech Village Master Deed as presented. Mr. Lemata, I know Mr. Scott Haymeyer's here from Rowe Engineering. Come on up.
We're at the stage in the development that, as you guys know, we've had a public-private partnership for several years. As we work through this, we do have the representatives from Suwaza as the developers, Dr. K, Dr. Saeed. I think you guys may have met them previously. They're here, as well as Scott Hemeyer from Rowe. We have been continuing to work on the engineering for the road, main road through there, as well as the water and sewer planning. I think we're over 50% complete, nearing completion on those. And then they've also been working on the master plan and site plan overview. It has gone through the planning commission. They've reviewed it. It's come before the board for you guys to approve the master plan, saying, yep, this is exactly what we had in mind with our support as a township. Mr. Hemeyer can walk you through, and certainly Dr. K or Dr. Saeed would be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Thank you, Mr. Limata.
Good evening.
Scott Hemeyer with Rowe Professional Services Company, Dr. Saeed and Dr. K with Suwaza LLC. Got a brief PowerPoint presentation we'll go over, give you a project overview, and then we'll take any questions from the board. So here are the existing site conditions. Sorry, I'm losing my pointer here. There we go. For whatever reason, I can't point up there, so I'll have to just describe it. So north is it to the up, the property is on the southwest corner of Baldwin Road and Saginaw Road. Baldwin Road's at the top of the screen there. Saginaw Road's on the right side of the screen. We've got the preserves along the north side of the site. Gateway Apartments also on the north side of the site. And then Security Credit Union is located towards the south end of the site. I-75 runs along the very south end of the site, and then the water tower encompasses the right along the west side of the site there. So the site's composed of two parcels, overall combined area, a little over 170 acres. It's a beautiful piece of property. It's got over 90 feet of relief on the site. So a maximum site elevation of 1016, which I believe, I've been told, is the highest in the county. Don't quote me on that. And then minimum site elevation of 924. It's got lots of wooded areas, ponds. You can see in the aerial on the right there. A little easier to see the ponds and the wetlands and the woods. And there's one regulated floodplain area in that large wetland area in the top and the bottom right-hand corner of the screen there. So a little bit of history on the site. I think a lot of folks on the board are already familiar with it, but just a quick refresher. 2016, 2017, the township had a marketing assessment completed by Chesapeake Group, Inc. on the site. And an illustrated plan was developed for the site concept on the left there by Land and Giffords Webster. There are two unique zoning districts adopted for the site. There's the Tech Village Park, which is the westerly two-thirds of the site, and then the Tech Village Center, which is like the easterly third of the site. The center district is more of the play area, the more downtown feel area, and the village area is where the businesses, a mixture of businesses and housing. So all these items have been available on the township's website. Enter COVID, the last 5 years, been looking for the right developer to come along. In 2022, Suwaza LLC purchased the property. They entered into a public-private partnership agreement with the DDA, where the DDA is an economic incentive, would install the public water and the sanitary sewer, and Suwaza would install the main development roadway and the storm sewers. And then, as Dennis mentioned, we've been working hard on getting the master plan developed. We got a site plan developed, and the the master deed, which is on the agenda for your approval tonight. Here's the overall site plan. This is in your packet, too. We're looking at doing the land divisions by a site condominium, hence the master deed bylaws and Exhibit B drawings in the packet. We're initially looking at 7 parcel splits. My glasses on here, sorry. The smallest parcel is Unit 3, 5 acres, and then the largest parcel right there, front and center in the screen, is just a little over 68 acres. So this master plan will facilitate us to do the initial construction of the water, the sewer, the road, the lighting, and storm sewer. So this is just enough planning to get that piece of the project going. So it's really important. I wanted to make everybody understand that each one of those parcels will have an end user, and those end users will have to go through full site plan approval process and develop their own site plans. Got a couple of videos here, kind of like Revit. It's not Revit, but it's a similar product that we have that we can generate some miles of the site. Oh, what just happened there? Okay, so that's Saginaw Road on the right. We're looking north, so there's Gateway Apartments. We're flying by there, and I don't know why this isn't cooperating. And phase 2 of the Gateway Apartments. Why does this keep going in and out? There's the preserves. Hopefully this will hang with us. Just flying over the largest site of the property there. We've got some natural ponds. That brown area is one of the stormwater management basins. I apologize. I don't know why this isn't cooperating. Then the water tower, and then coming up to Baldwin Road. Let me try another way. I've got these videos on my... What's that? Yeah, let me try just playing the videos here. I'll try this. Now it's not showing up at all. Looks like my screen's frozen.
That's Baldwin Road right there, Scott.
Yeah, but it's not behaving.
Actually, the Gateway Apartments, next to it, there's some construction going on right now with some additional, I guess, townhouses or condos being built there right now.
Yeah, I apologize. I'm having technical difficulties. I had a couple videos. I promised they were great, but
We'll trust you.
yeah.
We can send them out.
Yeah, we can send them out to the board. I think we've seen the conceptual plan.
Jeez.
Are you running that, Scott, from the internet, or is that,
No, this is local on my
Okay.
computer. I'm surprised we're having issues. Try one more time here. Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's going to cooperate. Apologize. Yeah, so with that, I apologize. We can take questions from the board if there's any.
yeah. So tonight, we're kind of looking at the overview of the, I mean, this isn't hard and fast, this is just kind of a conceptual plan at this point that we're looking at
Correct.
this evening.
Yep. If we're approved tonight, our next step would be to stop by the planning commission and go through the full approval process.
So basically, whether or not this is the direction that we were looking at is what we want to consider it this evening.
Correct, yep, yep.
So this is, what we're looking at here is pretty much the road through the property.
Yep, road through the property, the lighting. The lighting will be through a Consumers Energy lighting district. We've been working with consumers on getting that going. It's pretty far along. And then the public water and sewer will be a township project, and then the public road and storm sewer will be a private development project.
So you need from us tonight is going to be basically an approval of the concept that,
The concept and the master deed, which will facilitate the property splits.
So motion to approve the master deed as presented.
right?
That gives them the green flag to move forward. It's showing, we're at the point now where the master deed is being presented to you guys so that you can actually see where the road has been designed to go through, that 100-foot buffer that goes along the whole north side of the property.
Right.
And then, even though these parcels obviously could be subject to change with an amendment to the master deed, if somebody needed more or less property, this is the initial phase of saying, here's the master deed, here's how Sawaza will be marketing this property out to the, so we're really going into the next step. And like I said, from here on out, you would move as the individual parcels are purchased, they're still coming in to go see planner, zoning administrator Jeremy Smith. He's going to start walking them through that site plan approval. You guys will see these site plans go through the planning commission and then also come to the board in certain instances so that you're looking at it saying, yes, this is what we started back in 2016 when we kicked off our start to, can we actually make this thing move forward? It's really exciting concept. We have all the zoning in place now. We have some developers who have bought, two big parcels and put them together. Now we've got the engineering done for the roadway and water and sewer, and we've got it parceled out so that people are ready to market, sell those parcels, and start to do the actual development to bringing people in. Much the same way when we think back a few years ago when we did the Enterprise Park, Grand Lake Enterprise Park, kind of the same thing. We're at that phase where now it's market, sell the property, and then we start seeing it moving forward. So exciting time for Grand Lake Township and for Sawaza.
We've been looking at this, I know, at least for the last term, and I know for anybody who's been watching things for the last 10 years has seen, this isn't the first time we're seeing this plan, as far as before us. We've had this dream of seeing this come to fruition, and this is the next step. So for me, it's something we've been contemplating and looking at for years, and now we need to take the next step and approve this conceptual plan so that it can move to the next step. But they've taken into consideration a huge buffer between any residential area and what's going to go in here, which is going to be partial residential anyway. So it isn't like we have, industrial buildings up against residential. Mr. Laddie?
Just a quick comment. When I review the master deed, and you look at Exhibit B, which is what most of it refers to, you'll see essentially, again, the conceptual layout of the road primarily, but if you go to the Tech Village Park District section of our zoning ordinance, and I know it's not in front of me tonight, you can actually see more detail in what's proposed or what's allowed in the Tech Village Park District, because a lot of the work that went into the visioning of Tech Village was adopted by us as a zoning district. So what you're seeing tonight is important, but you're not seeing the details that you might expect. And you'll see more details if you refer to the zoning ordinance, because it's going to be built according to the provisions of the Tech Village Park District. And so that should give you a high degree of comfort
Right.
that you've got regulations in place so that you're going to see in the end what you wanted.
Okay. Any questions?
I was going to make a motion.
Ms. Hugo makes the motion, supported by Dr. Reardon.
Motion by Hugo, supported by Reardon on item 8A. Trustee White.
Yes.
Trustee Reardon.
Yes.
Trustee Hugo.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Treasurer Yancho.
Yes.
Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
6-0, motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Kay. Thank you, Dr. Said, Scott. We appreciate you investing in Grand Blanc Township. Thank you. Thank you. Next on the agenda, item B, the board will hear a brief presentation on the Parks and Recreation millage that expires on December 31st, 2025. We have Mr. Kimmer and Ms. Lemona. Well, the survey that we recently did this summer showed some positive thoughts from our residents with regard to the millage. I think it was 70-some% in terms of in favor of continuing with renewing the current millage, and I believe it was 57% were in favor of actually increasing it. So they must be liking what we're doing with their money.
I believe so. All right, you guys ready?
Yes.
All right, I think I'm ready here too. Okay, good evening. So as Supervisor Bennett said, we do have the Parks and Rec millage that will be expiring December 31st of 2025. So we do just kind of want to get the conversation started, get you guys thinking about it, but most likely we will need to have a millage request on the ballot sometime in 2025, so we're going to take a look at that, what that looks like. So a little bit of history, the current millage that is in place right now. In 2016, the voters approved a 10-year millage at a quarter of a mil, 0.25 mils, or 25 cents per $1,000 of taxable value of the household. Again, that millage is set to expire in 2025. With the current millage, we will collect on that on the winter tax bill of 2025. And we will be able to utilize that for our 2026 capital improvements. However, if we choose to put a millage on the ballot in 2025, we can make that active to be collected in the winter tax bill of 25. With the Headley rollback, the millage rate is at 0.2399 mils for the 2024 tax year. The 2024 median taxable value of a home in Grand Blanc Township is $105,878. So at that rate, currently in 2024, the average household will pay $25.40 towards the millage. And with that dollar amount, we are estimated to collect for 2025 $422,185. So of that 2.7 million that has been collected in the Parks and Rec millage since the 2016 voting of the current millage, 476,000 of that was invested into the park in 2017 through 2019 under the Parks and Rec Commission. Since Grand Blanc Township took over Parks and Rec in 2020, we have invested over $1.6 million into the park. You'll see there that we also have $500,000 allocated for matching funds towards a grant. I am happy to report that just today, the DNR announced that we've been recommended for funding with the Land Water Conservation Grant to the tune of $500,000.
Very good.
A lot of work went into that with our staff, with our grant writer. We applied for this back in April, so we're happy to announce that. That project will consist of realigning the road, redoing the parking lot near the South Pavilion, also providing some ADA enhancements around the playground area and the South Pavilion, and we will rehabilitate the South Pavilion as well. Some new upgrades to the restrooms, kitchens, a new concrete floor. That also leaves us with about $77,000 in the reserve fund. So just to give you guys an idea of where we're at with the current millage, how much we've collected. The improvements that we made under the current millage, a few of the highlights there, the new playground that we just installed this past year. We've made some significant improvements to our softball and baseball fields, resurfacing, an irrigation system of the lower quad, new fences around the backstops. We have a new Parks and Rec software that we implemented this year. So far, everything has been going well with that. We also made some renovations to the restroom facility and built a new concession stand out there. So we made a lot of improvements, really knocked off a lot of things on the strategic plan that the board has developed, and we'd like to keep that momentum going. So what are we looking at for potential options for the next millage? Do we want to go with a 10-year millage? Do we want to go with a 5-year millage? Obviously, if we select a 10-year millage, that helps us improve, develop that capital improvement plan, strategic plan, looking out into the future 10 years. When do we want to put it on the ballot? In 2025, one of the benefits of having it on the ballot in May is that I believe there's already an item that will be on the ballot, so therefore we can share in the costs of the election if we were to have it in August or November. At this time, we don't know if there are other items on there, so we may end up absorbing the cost of the election for that.
Mr. Supervisor, if I may?
Yep.
I think we have an item on the November ballot as well.
Okay.
School issues.
Possibly. It isn't. I spoke with the superintendent today, and it's not a definite.
Okay, I got an email to that effect just a few days ago. That's the source of my comment.
Right.
Unless, are we certain of May but not certain of November?
I'm not certain of either one right now.
Okay.
So the timing of this, if we are looking to put millage language on the ballot in May, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the language has to be in mid-February.
That sounds right, yes.
Yes, somewhere around there. If that's the case, in February, obviously, that's before the time that the board's going to spend on the strategic plan for Parks and Rec. So we have, a few options to talk over and weigh through. And then the big question, the amount of the millage. Are we looking to go for a renewal at 0.25 mils? Are we looking at a half a mil or a full mil? The chart here, taking that 2024 median taxable value of $105,000, a quarter mil, average household that first year would be contributing $26.47. That goes up to $52.94 per household for a half mil and $105.88 for a full mil. So we have some options there that we have to weigh. What can we do with those various levels of funding? Senya and I have identified a list of essential improvements in the park. That list of improvements, we estimate that at about a little over $3 million in today's dollars. We also have a list there of desirable improvements. That list of just the desirables is about a little over $6 million, we estimate, in today's dollars. Some of the essentials, we know that we're going to have to replace the irrigation system at the soccer fields relatively soon. We would hopefully look at putting in running sanitary sewer gravity main through the park. We do have the concession stand, the restroom facility, South Pavilion, North Pavilion. If we were ever to look at expanding another restroom facility or concession building on the north side of the park near the soccer fields, we really should think about running sanitary sewer through the park. Desirable improvements. Obviously, we've heard our residents out there, splash pad is a big thing. I know that the residents would like to see. We'd also like to improve our irrigation system on fields 2 through 5. We've talked about lighting some of the softball fields to bring on more, adult softball leagues at night. I think those would be very popular. We have a trail network around the pond right now that really could use some work to make it usable year-round. There are some low spots through there. A significant investment through there would allow us to put together, a good drainage plan and be able to utilize those paths throughout the year. So it's just a few highlights of the essentials versus the desirables that we would like to see. So projections. If we were to assume the same historical average of GBT residential taxable value growth over this last 10 years of the current millage, or 9 years, on average, the taxable value has increased by 4.35% year over year. So calculating this out, what would this look like if we were to assume those same projections? At a quarter of a mil, we would project to bring in 5.3 million. At half a mil, 10.7. And at a full mil, projected to collect 21.5 million. So if you take these numbers here and go back, match them up with the essentials list versus the desirables, now we're getting into, okay, what could we do with a quarter of a mil? With a quarter of a mil, we were pretty confident that we could get the list of essentials completed at the park, which would basically be maintaining what we currently have while addressing those long-term maintenance needs that we've put off over the years. If we're getting into a half mil, now we're getting into, okay, we can complete the essentials list and we can probably tackle that desirables list as well. If we're looking to go for a full mil, now we're talking, okay, can we explore options for a community center? I know that's been a big item here in this township. A lot of residents would appreciate a community center. With that extra funding, can we look at acquiring some land for some pocket parks throughout the township? Do we increase our trail network, our not motorized trail network, with that full mill? So this slide here just kind of gives you an idea of what we project we'd be able to accomplish at the various millage rates. So what does the community say about it? Well, if we go back to the community survey that we did, as you mentioned, Supervisor Bennett, at the start of this, 74% of the respondents are in favor of a renewal at a quarter of a mil. The second question we had out there is, would you support a Parks and Rec millage increase to a full mill? 57% said that they would support a full mill for a millage increase. So obviously, weighing those options, is 57% enough? Is it definitely a quarter of a mil we think would pass? Is it somewhere in the middle with the half mil? Those are all the options that we'd have to weigh.
Matt, I've got a question.
Sure, yeah.
When we asked that question, if they would be interested in, what level of millage, did we have any items attached? Because I'm thinking that we didn't. And so basically, we had 57%, even
Correct.
without them knowing.
Yes, we didn't have any specific items of, hey, if we have a full mill, we can do this, this, this. No, they weren't getting the same, yeah, correct. They did have, within the question, I believe we had the, this is how much it would cost per $1,000 of taxable value. We had the equation there of this is what would it cost on average. So to summarize it all, again, essential improvements we're estimating at 3.2 million, desirables at 6.3, total improvements identified off of our estimate is 9.5 million. What would that look like at a renewal? We're estimated to collect 5.37 million. If we go for a half mil, 10.7, a full mil would be 21.5. And then we break down the cost there for that first year. What would that look like for the average household? So yeah, the plan here is hopefully again in January to come back before you guys. We can do a little more in-depth discussion, but just kind of wanted to get the gears turning here as far as what's coming down the pike. Anything you want? Any questions?
I think it was a very well put together presentation with, with the needed items and the desirable items. And then also looking at what, the various millage rates would garner for the parks. One thing that's unfortunate is that we do have a county parks millage on everybody's tax bill, but unfortunately, we don't capture any of that. That goes to the county. Be nice if we had a percentage of that stayed here. Sure. Which we've discussed that with the county numerous times, and I'm not sure that's going to happen anytime soon. I'm not saying it won't, but we'll keep pushing. But we do have a long list, and quality of life is something that we want to continue to work on. We have heard, I'm sure everybody here has heard, that we need pickleball courts, we need, a splash pad, we need a community pool. I'm not saying we're going to do all those things with, even if we pass, the 1 mil, but we do have a lot of interest in a number of these items, so I think it really takes our serious consideration on where we want to go on this. On the other hand, we've heard from residents that taxes are too high, so we've got to balance those things, and I'm sure everybody balances those as we look at everything we do. Dr. Reardon?
Just, if we were to look at 57%, if it was a road, it would be a done deal.
I was thinking the same thing. We always say that, if we get 51%, we've got to move forward.
One other thing I forgot to add in there too, and it's evident from this afternoon, the importance of having matching funds available for the grants that are out there. That was key to us getting that grant, is that we had a $500,000 availability of funds for that matching grant. So if we do, I know it is a tough decision, if we do increase it a bit, obviously that, elevates our ability to have matching funds available to go after those grants.
So the $500,000 that we received from the DNR is matched with our $500,000. So it's really $1 million that we're going to be allocating towards that.
Yes.
And our grant writer, I understand, was instrumental in helping us.
Absolutely, she was. It paid for itself with this.
So when we're reconsidering the contract for our grant writer, we'll keep that in mind, that this one alone, I think we received another one as well before that. But so the matching funds are key for our success in attracting more grants. Okay, any thoughts or discussion? Mr. White?
And I don't have my budget thing in front of me. How much do we contribute out of the general fund in addition to the parks millage?
We are, for 2025, I believe we are at 620,000. So it's been over $500,000 out of the general fund for probably the last 3 years, 4 years.
Would you anticipate if we did this, that if we did increase it, that we would then reduce the general fund?
So we could reduce the general fund if we write the millage language to also include general maintenance at the park, road maintenance, trail maintenance. We could utilize the millage funds to cover some of our operating costs that are otherwise paid for by the general fund.
Right now, our millage is solely for capital improvements.
I believe so, yes.
And what you're saying is if we wrote this to include maintenance.
Maintenance, operating, yes, we could alleviate some of what we put in with the general fund to offset that.
Or we could elect to keep it same and have it only go towards capital.
That's true.
And continue with the general fund.
Yep.
Initially, when we brought the quarter mill for the first time back in 2016, that was in response to many years of deferred maintenance out there. You guys recall when I first got here at the end of 2015, and we shut down the basketball courts because of the safety factor with heaved up concrete and things. And a lot of it had to do, when the recession hit, we had to cut back funding for Parks and Recreation as considered maybe non-essential general fund contributions. And at that point, it was, again, being run by the commission, and they had to make the decisions based upon the budget that they had. But there was a lot of deferred maintenance, and Matt showed you, the amount of money, $2.7 million that's been invested into the park. A lot of that really was critical. Like, everyone would like to see more shiny new objects out there. But a lot of it had to do with that deferred maintenance and fixing the things that we had. That's why, I'm glad you brought up the point that people lament the loss of the splash pad, but those things are designed to have about a 12-year shelf life, and ours went 20 years. And at the end, we just couldn't, there was no more pieces or parts available to keep that thing running. We kept it and nursed it along as much as we could. Would a splash pad be great? It would be, but you'd be looking at probably minimum somewhere between $600,000 and $800,000 to have a basic splash pad out there. In the whole scheme of things, we had to fix what we had, and even this grant that Matt announced, while we're so excited and grateful for that grant, what are we really doing? We're fixing some of the parking, because when we have those big tournaments out there with 100 teams coming in, they're stuck in the grass because there's just not enough parking available. So there's still quite a bit of deferred maintenance, and the importance of getting that sewer main through there so we can have functional restrooms instead of having, when we have those big tournaments, we've got porta potties out there that we have to have them come out several times a day and empty those. And, you just look at the amount of deferred maintenance and what we can accomplish. So I think we've shown the public, and it's registered in that community survey, that we spent the money wisely. We had a lot of deferred maintenance, and we had to put a lot of money. The ball fields are second to none. They're the best in Genesee County without a doubt. We still have more work to do out there, and you can't do it without money. And we kind of geared the language towards, if you give us this money, we're going to do capital. But I think it is easy to put the language as capital as well as operational maintenance, so that you have the flexibility to do what you want to do with the funds as we move forward.
Some of the infrastructure items, it would have been nice, but they probably didn't have the funds when they first established the park to do some of these, infrastructure things that we need to do now. The parking lots, I think, probably just happened where they had high ground instead of really planning them out. Sewer lines and water lines. We've tried using some of the well water out there, groundwater, and has such a high salt level that it's killing the grass. There's so much iron in the well water that it basically ruins the splash pad when we did have it. So some of those things, we're kind of backtracking from the establishment of the park. If we were building the park today, we'd probably say, well, what infrastructure do we need to start with? And it would have been sewer and water and roads and parking. So we're trying to play catch-up. At the same time, we're trying to put new amenities that people want these days, such as pickleball, what have you. So anyways, just my thoughts. Anything else?
Also, you don't make money on parks operations, parks cost, but it's one of the things you do to create that sense of place for your community. Where we get our return on investment in parks is by higher home values and a more desirable place to live. People want to live here because we have a great park system. You heard from Little League earlier tonight requesting that we would consider discounting the rates, but we don't, those aren't money makers for us. One of the things that we ran when it was run under the Parks and Rec Commission is that we had incredibly low rental rates. Now that it's been under our belt for a few years, we can actually determine what the cost is of doing those. The rental rates have come up, but they've come up because we're trying to get to a cost recovery. Even the amount we charge now doesn't necessarily balance what it costs us to prep those fields and have them ready. All we're trying to do is get a cost recovery, work towards a cost neutral approach to our rental rates for sports leagues. Because otherwise we're continue to subsidize, and I get it. It takes a bite. I was a Little League coach for many, many years. I get how, tough it is to manage that and trying to keep the league going. But we also have to look at it from a Parks and Recreation standpoint as a township and how much general fund money we're willing to invest, and are we willing to subsidize those. That's all a decision that we can tie in as our bigger conversation of what we're doing for the Parks and Recreation Master Plan long-term as we move forward. Like, what do we want to accomplish for the next 10-year millage? And what do you guys want us to accomplish for the next 4-year strategic plan?
Well, definitely, it helps with economic development if you have, great parks, great schools. They're looking for more than just open space, right? The thing that I've had discussions with some neighboring communities that ask me, and they've looked at establishing some new parks in their communities, and they've asked, hey, your park breaks even, right? Or that's a revenue generator, and it's like, come on over and meet with our finance and our park people, and we'll go through the budget, but it is not anywhere near break even. If we were to try and make it break even, I'm not sure we'd get a whole lot of participation in a lot of our activities just because the cost would be so prohibitive. So, but it is, like you said, Mr. Lima, it's not only economic development, but quality of life too. I don't know, there, as big as our township is, we don't get everybody out at the park on a regular basis, but I can tell you what, for those that haven't visited the park, at least during the summer months, on any weekday or weekend, you'll see that park full of people every weeknight, and a lot of times even during the day. It just blows me away how many people are out there.
Seems like everybody's out there.
We had a drone out, and I'm excited to see what the drone shows us from the tree lighting that we had Friday night. But, I mean, the parking was wall to wall, but during the summer, the same thing, so. Well, we'll look forward in our strategic planning sessions to take a look at the list of items. I know you'll be part of that. We'll look at the items that are needed and the items that are desirable and figure out where we want to go on that. And we'll have to make some tough decisions. And
Sounds great. Appreciate
anything
it.
else from any board members? Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Matt.
Okay.
Item C, 8C, Mr. Supervisor.
Item C, under new business, the board will consider a motion to approve zoning case number 674N regarding accessory structures, covered decks, and pergolas. And we have Mr. Smith with us this evening.
Good evening. The Planning Commission over the last couple months has discussed the covered decks and pergola issue. Dating back to the summer, spring, we had a couple of developers want to come in and put in pergolas, very nice and expensive pergolas. In the zoning ordinance, they aren't clearly defined. So the language you have in front of you today will make my day-to-day operations much easier in defining covered decks and pergolas, the size, the location, and the setbacks for those said items. At the last Planning Commission meeting in November, the Planning Commission held a public hearing regarding Section 5.2.3, amending the accessory structures for covered decks and pergolas. The Planning Commission recommended approval to the Township Board of Trustees with a 5-0 vote.
Okay. Any additional thoughts, Mr. Smith, on it, or?
I believe this is very necessary, especially without having pergolas clearly defined in the zoning ordinance. We have decks, we have sheds. Those items are very clearly defined. Not having this in there with the amount of pergolas I think that we're going to see, especially with people staying at home, enjoying their homes more, this is a necessary ordinance amendment.
Okay, any thoughts on it, board members? Yes.
I was reading from the memo from Giffords Webster. Can you elaborate a little bit on the practically attached versus detached? Practically attached is like a little bit pregnant. I mean,
Exactly.
I mean, we either are attached or we're not.
Well, and yes, the said issue.
Educate me.
The said issue came to light where we had a pergola that was 6 inches from a home. Now, is that attached or is that detached? Well, you can consider it either way because of the distance from the home. So with this language, this clearly, we had 3 planning commission meetings just over that said item you just mentioned, trying to define how this is going to be attached, detached, or partially attached. The partially attached went out the window. We aren't really considering that. We have attached, we have detached, and then we have setbacks for each item.
Okay. And you believe that as a result of your efforts that the issue is now more clearly understood by all?
Yes, sir. That was myself, Giffords Webster, and the planning commissioners. Mr. Yancho was integral in those discussions as well as his previous spot on the planning commission. So we extensively reviewed this and extensively debated this text amendment.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Supervisor.
You're welcome. Any other questions for Mr. Smith?
I would make a motion to approve zoning case number 674N
Okay.
as presented.
Supported by Ms. Hugo.
Motion by Yancho, supported by Hugo on item 8C. Trustee White.
Yes.
Trustee Hugo.
Yes.
Trustee Raridan.
Yes.
Treasurer Yancho.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
6-0. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay. Next on the agenda, item D, the board will consider a motion to approve zoning case number 674, gas station, 6740, gas station distance requirement.
So the Township Board, back at June 25th of 2024, placed a 6-month moratorium on gas station applications. That was to develop language and study the current state of affairs for gas stations that we have in Grambling Township. With the amount of discussion and research that Giffords, myself, and the planning commissioners have looked into, the language you have in front of you to address that moratorium, the language that the planning commissioners have adopted or they've recommended to the Township Board is that there's a mile distance from any existing gas stations in Grambling Township before you can construct a new gas station. And that 1 mile distance is as the road travels, not as the crow flies.
Correct me if I'm wrong, they were actually looking at 2 miles and then adjusted it at their last meeting.
Yes, sir. On my recommendation, I said that that would be restrictive, and you can be, that would be restricting, and you can be restricting, you just can't exclude. So the 2 miles would be excluding, basically, with the amount of gas stations that we have. The 2 miles would basically not allow any new gas stations ever to be constructed in Grambling Township.
So there are some places still that would be allowed within that 1 mile.
Yes, sir. There's property zone predominantly on the south end of town, south of the city limits, yes.
So maybe this is more to Mr. Laddie, but in terms of concerns, part of public notice on this, is that required, or do we follow what was required on that?
Yeah, so we follow, so this is an amendment to your zoning ordinance, and we follow all of our public hearing notice requirements pursuant to that. And you may find we have different, for our zoning board of appeals, we have a distance, I think it was at 300 feet, Jeremy, where we hit property owners within 300 feet. But when you
Yes, sir.
talk about township-wide ordinance amendment, then you don't have those specific, like you're not obligated to send out notice to people with existing gas stations. You're not obligated to send out specific notice to people who may be contemplating future gas stations. You have a general notice requirement in the statute that's published in the paper. And so by virtue of the planning commission meeting and the public hearing, you met your publication or notice requirements for a zoning amendment.
Mr. Smith, had there been any plans submitted that were denied, or, I mean, the question came up that anybody who had them should be considered, but I'm not aware of any that, there was some that were already underway, or.
There was one that was in discussion, but I did not have official site plans before me, before the moratorium went into place, no.
Okay. In terms of variances, if if somebody came to us and said, hey, I've got a great piece of property, in other situations, they can go for a variance. With this, they would be able to do the same thing with this.
Just like any other variance and just like any other item in the zoning ordinance, a variance can be requested, but just like any other variance, a hardship or practical difficulty has to be shown in order for that variance to be granted, yes.
And I know we had talked about several previous locations that have been closed, and they were closed for a number of years before they were renovated. I know the McDonald's at the corner of Fenton and Hill, I don't know how long that stayed vacant as far as gas station, but that stayed vacant for quite a while. Also, in the it's in the city of Grand Blanc, but I know everybody's not pleased it's a mattress store, but that's neither here nor there. Was a gas station for a very long time.
Closed.
It was vacant.
It was closed for a long
Yes,
time.
yes, and took a state fund, I think, to help pay to dig it out, but we have had discussion on this several times before we even sent it to the Planning Commission. And so I think we've already gone over a lot of the reasons why we felt it was important. We do have other businesses that do have restrictions on distance, right? Like
Used car lots.
car lots.
Mhm. There's about a dozen uses in the zoning ordinance that have not the same distance-wise, but do have distance requirements, yes.
Yeah, and I think the difference we noted with regard to gas stations was that, if it's a pizza or sub shop, it can be converted over to a retail location fairly easily.
Any restaurant, any retail, yes.
Yeah, so I think the concern was with regard to the tanks and what have you, that it isn't easily converted over to another type of business.
It's not impossible, but it is doable, yes, but it does take time, and they could potentially sit vacant for a number of years, yes.
I know at the Planning Commission level, there was some discussion in terms of, maybe down the road looking at if it's on a certain side of the road and it makes sense safety-wise, that you'd revisit this ordinance to see if that might make sense as well.
Yes, this language you have in front of you is in response to the moratorium that you folks have put into place. You wanted some language in front of you before that it expired, which expires December 25th of this year. So this is what we have for you today. If in 6 months, a year, if this ordinance doesn't work, if you have any suggestions for the Planning Commission, I'd be glad to take it in front of them, and we can reopen this amendment and change it to see fit.
Any questions or concerns from any board members? Yes, Dr. Reardon.
So, just so I understand this, if, let's say there are gas stations, 3 gas stations, and somebody wants to put, 2 gas stations, somebody wants to put a third in between them, and it's within that mile, could they apply for a variance? I just want to make sure that they can.
They can apply, but they would have to prove a practical difficulty or a hardship in order to be granted that variance.
Okay. As an example, if you can, I don't know, could you give me an example?
In residential, we've had variances granted where the rear of the property slopes, and the requirement for outbuildings, you have to put them in the rear yard. If the rear yard slopes and you can't feasibly put in without extreme cost, the ZBA has allowed them to be placed in the side yard, those outbuildings. So that would be a hardship or practical difficulty in that case, yes.
Okay.
Mr. White?
I just have a question about this mile. Is this only within the township? We have a sort of a ring of gas stations that aren't in the township that are essentially on the outside.
Yeah, so it would only be applications for Grand Lake Township gas stations. We can't control.
I get we can't control what other places are doing,
Right.
but we're not counting those places as part of this.
No, ours only.
So we could still have one on the 4 corners. We could still have 1, 2, 3, 4 if, and that would be.
Correct.
Potentially, yes.
Yes. We would not count the gas stations in other municipalities
No.
surrounding us.
The corner of Fenton and Hill, for example, is
Right.
Mundy Township on one side and Grand Lake
And
Township on
there's
the other.
2 gas stations there now. But they're both in Mundy Township.
And so if somebody did want to put one, tear down whatever, Rite Aid or whatever that is, they could put a gas station there and that would not count towards that mile, correct?
In that scenario, no, that would not be allowed because there's another gas station right there at Hill and 475 that's within that mile.
But he's saying if that weren't
Yeah.
Okay, if
there,
that weren't there, okay.
Yes.
So we wouldn't count the ones on their side, okay.
if that weren't there, it would be allowed.
So the first step in any application is looking at that mile. That would be, yeah, my first step, yes. Yep.
Okay.
And at the planning commission, they did recommend 5-0 also on this item
Right.
for approval.
And we do have, like you said, about a dozen other types of businesses that have restrictions similar.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
I'll just make a motion on this.
okay.
Support.
Ready makes motion, supported by Mr. Yancho.
On item 8D, motion by Raritan, supported by Yancho. Trustee White.
Yes.
Trustee Raritan.
Yes.
Trustee Hugo.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Treasurer Yancho.
Yes.
Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
6-0, motion passes.
Thank you.
Item E, the board will consider a motion to approve Resolution 24-25, adopting the 2025 fee schedule to support the fiscal year 2025 budgets. We have Ms. Roberts this evening discussing the item. Evening.
This is the regular township fee schedule that you approve every year. Any changes in the township fee schedule were highlighted in red, and the department heads for those departments are present if you have any questions.
Any questions on the fee schedule? Okay. Ms. Hugo makes the motion, supported by Mr. Yancho.
Motion by Hugo, supported by Yancho on item 8E.
Yes, correct.
Okay. Very good. Trustee Hugo.
Yes.
Trustee Raritan.
Yes.
Trustee White.
Yes.
Treasurer Yancho.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
6-0, motion passes.
Thank you. Item F, the board will consider a motion to approve the 2025 Department of Public Works budget. We have with us Director Cooley and Assistant Director Mr. Boggs. Good evening.
Good evening.
Congratulations on your rating as well in the survey that we did this summer.
Thank you.
People appreciate having great water and sewer, which doesn't go unnoticed apparently.
It's always important things when there's
Yes.
water on it, it works, and you,
We don't want to talk about the other one.
right. So today in front of you is our projected 2025 budget. I've been with Grand Blanc Township now for a full year. Went through a bunch of different areas on where our spending was at. Made some changes where possible to try to control the costs the best I could. As with every year, we base our capital improvement planning off of the strategic plan. In our ordinance state that we have to be fiscally responsible to operate, maintain, and future plan for our utility systems. We have several different capital improvements projects planned for this year. Some of them are carryovers from last year that we just weren't able to get to, or the design process is still underway. One of the largest items that the board had already approved was us to join in with Genesee County Water and Waste for the KCI project. With that project and some other capital improvements and some needed things that we're doing, there was slight increases this year that are going to account to about, typical homeowner's going to have about a $2.49 a month increase in their water and sewer bills combined, which that'll come out to be about I have it down $36 annually, but I believe it's cheaper than that. I believe it's somewhere in the $29.88 annually increase. And if you look at that, the percentages come out to, it's 3% on the water side and 9% on the sewer side. The reason why the larger increase on the sewer side is, we had a couple of big major improvements on the Grand Lake Road sewer and then the Fenton Road sewer that we paid cash for, used a lot of our reserve funds. And then between building the new building and the KCI project that, we have to make sure the fund balances are in place so that we can pay for those bonds as they come along. I think we've looked at this over very, very strongly. We caught everything that we thought we could possibly cut. We've looked at equipment. Do we really need to replace equipment, different items like that, so that we know we're looking to the future to schedule this out and try to keep these rate increases as low as possible. But in order for us to have the growth and follow the strategic plans, we have to, do these capital improvement projects that puts us in line with that. And that's how we come across those different increases.
Okay. Very good. Any concerns? Ms. Hugo makes the motion. Dr. Reardon supports.
On item 8F,
Correct.
Hugo makes the motion, supported by Raridan. Trustee Raridan.
Yes.
Trustee Hugo.
Yes.
Trustee White.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Treasurer Yancho.
Yes.
Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
6-0, motion passes.
Thank you.
Item G, the board will consider a motion to approve a 2-year contract with HydroCorp for cross-connection inspection services for a total amount of $36,504 and authorize Township Superintendent to execute all related contracts and documents. Mr. Boggs?
Good evening, everyone. This is a contract with HydroCorp. They do all our cross-connection inspections. With Eagle, we have to make sure there's no back siphonage or backflow, tongue twister today, into the public water supply. It protects it. It's mandated by Eagle. We've been with HydroCorp since the summer of 2017. They do a great job. They manage it for us. We have in-office staff that coordinates with them when they come out and do their inspections, and then we seek to renew them.
Any thoughts on, this is mainly for businesses at this point, right?
Correct. We are looking at eventually residential. We just got to find the best way of implementing it, because it's tough.
Do we know when the state may require us to do it for residential?
So I had our sanitary survey, when did I have that? Earlier this year, I think in the fall, or at least August, yeah. So I did discuss it with the district engineer, and it's kind of going to be within our next 5 to 10 years of our next sanitary survey to do that. There's a number of ways we can implement it, like a self-report type of deal with the homeowners taking, picture if they have an irrigation system, of their backflow device on the side of their home. Different ways like that, we're looking at it, but.
So it could be with simply as a picture, a photograph that
Yes.
they send in?
Yes.
So now, with these businesses, they pay for the inspection, or we do it,
No, we pay for it. It's out of the rates.
what's that?
Out of the rates.
Okay, all right. Okay, very good. So they pay for it, but it's in the rate?
Yes.
Okay,
So they pay for it, yes.
gotcha. Okay, any questions? I'll make the motion that we move forward with regard to the contract with HydroCorp. For support by Dr. Reardon.
Motion by Bennett, supported by Raridan. On item 8G, Trustee White.
Yes.
Trustee Hugo.
Yes.
Trustee Raridan.
Yes.
Treasurer Yancho.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
6-0, motion passes.
Just backtracking, the concern, I guess, with residential is that individuals' irrigation systems, there's a chance, or a concern that it could backflow into their drinking water, what have you.
Correct. Correct.
Item H, the board will consider a motion to approve Resolution 24-46 to amend the 2024 general fund budget. We have Ms. Sostak, our finance director, with us. Good evening.
Good evening. This is the budget amendment to amend the 2024 general fund budget. Just to highlight a couple of the items, we do have some increases in revenues, investment income by about $200,000. We are decreasing bond proceeds by about $3.5 million, but that is just due to some of the special assessment projects that have been postponed until next year. We are increasing the budget by some typical operating expenditures. Two of the larger items are an increase to our OPEB contribution of just over $200,000 and our DB pension of about $300,000. And then we're also increasing our transfer to capital projects by about $500,000. But in total, we're actually requesting a decrease of just over $2 million to the general fund budget. We are anticipating use of some fund balance of about about $1 million, and that is just for contributions to our unfunded liabilities and the transfer to capital projects. The transfer to capital projects is not anticipated to be used in 2024, but we are trying to build up a fund balance for some of our larger anticipated capital projects in the future, in particular the purchase of a new fire truck. So unless you have any other additional questions on any specific ones?
I don't. Anybody
I'll
else?
make the motion on item 8H if you wish, Mr. Supervisor.
Okay. Ms. Hugo, okay. Ms. Hugo supports.
And Hugo supports. Very good. Trustee White.
Yes.
Trustee Raritan.
Yes.
Trustee Hugo.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Treasurer Yancho.
Yes.
Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
6-0. Motion passes.
Thank you. We have next a motion to approve Resolution 24-47 to amend the 2024 Special Revenue Fund budget.
Yes, this is amending various special revenue funds, a total of 5 different funds. The largest being the Capital Projects Fund. We're requesting an amendment of about $4.2 million to that. That is to, first of all, recognize the transfer in from the general fund for capital projects. And the largest portion of it, though, is for the bond proceeds for the fire station. At the time when this budget was prepared, we did not have a good estimate on the dollar amount of that, so we are now requesting an amendment of about $3.4 million for the fire station, and then some various other capital projects. If you'd like any more detail, I'm more than willing to go over any of these.
Yeah, we just finalized on the price on that a few months ago. Yes.
I'll make the motion.
Okay. Dr. Reardon makes the motion.
Item 8I, excuse me.
Correct.
8.
Supported by Ms. Hugo.
Motion by
Dr. Reardon.
Motion by Raritan.
Supported by Ms.
Supported by Hugo. Trustee Hugo.
Yes.
Trustee Raritan.
Yes.
Trustee White.
Yes.
Treasurer Yancho.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
6-0. Motion passes.
Thank you. And then item J, the board will consider a motion to approve a contribution to OPEB and post-employment benefits, and then MERS and our defined benefit pension plan.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Supervisor.
Support. Okay. There's motion support, and Ms. Ostak, did you have something? Go ahead.
No, actually, I was just going to, this is what we typically do at the end of the year. We are requesting with the budget amendments an additional amount, so our total amount being contributed to OPEB will be $750,000. And our DB pension plan will be about $1 million, or it will be actually exactly $1 million. If you remember, in previous years, we've typically contributed more towards OPEB, but this year, we think that we're pretty close to, we ended last year at about 96% funded. I just checked today, and we've had some really good investment earnings on our OPEB plan. we've, about $2.8 million we've earned this year, so I think we're going to be over 100% funded. So we are not contributing as much as we typically have, but we're still, making an additional contribution to it.
So what was our gain so far on interest?
About $2.8 million. We started the year with $27.3 million, and I just checked today, we have $2,889,000 in earnings. The market's been doing well this year, so.
Very good.
Yeah, that's substantial. Well, and that, I'm glad to hear that we're at the 100%, but, with that actuarial math, that can change, in a heartbeat, right?
Can, and every year we do have additional unfunded, the unfunded portion does increase every year as benefits are earned by the current employees that are within the plan. But, with what we've been doing, what we've been putting aside, and then these, additional earnings, right now we have about $30 million in assets. So I anticipate we will be very close, if not over 100% funded this year.
9 years ago, you had about $4 million in funds,
Right.
in assets.
Right, so 4 million to now 28 million, is it?
30 million, right.
30 million. Substantial leap. So,
All right.
okay.
Shall I do a record roll call, Mr. Supervisor?
Sure,
Item
was there
8J.
there was a motion support already, so.
There is, yes. Trustee Raridan?
Yes.
Trustee Hugo?
Yes.
Trustee White?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Treasurer Yancho?
Yes.
Supervisor Bennett?
Yes.
6-0, motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Solstack, for your great work in your department, too.
Here, here.
The last item on our agenda as far as new business is not one that we do with joy, but we certainly are happy for Mr. Laddie. Mr. Laddie told us a few meetings ago that he was going to be stepping down a little bit. David, you want to say a few words before I have a few more things to say?
Well, yeah, I did, and again, I sent you correspondence, and it was bittersweet for me to send, and it's a bittersweet moment for me tonight. As I look around, and I said when I came into the meeting, I'm going to look around and try to soak it all in, and I'm emotional about it. Grand Blanc has been very important to me. I've enjoyed every minute of it. It's been an absolute pleasure to represent Grand Blanc Township, and I want to say this tonight because especially hearing about the financial success and the parks and all the things that have been developing in such an excellent way, and you have a strategic planning session coming up, you guys are uniquely suited with all of your knowledge that you've obtained over the last 4 years, with all of the pieces in place with that, with Dennis, your strategic planning, your excellent employees. You are a rocket on the launch pad. I mean, I really am very excited about Grand Blanc Township, particularly what you're going to be able to accomplish over the next 4 years and more. And one of the things that occurred to me is I was thinking about myself and having been in this room, in this building for the last, depending on what I was here for, 20, 25 years, doing traffic for the last 30 years. I thought about that had been a long time, but then I looked through some of your minutes, and because I was trying to figure out when Lynn started here. And I came across these are minutes from December board meeting, 1962.
Oh, my gosh.
Following members present: Supervisor Earl Swift, Beatrice Allen, Addison Myers, Ralph Butts, Clarence Miller, Kenneth Harris, Louis Whalen. Also present at this meeting was Township Attorney Lynn Laddie.
Wow.
1962. So older than me. I thought I didn't know it was that long. And when I tallied up the years, I realized I didn't even do half of them.
Yeah.
So needless to say, Grand Blanc's been a big part of my life, part of my family's life, and we are immensely proud of that and grateful. And I'm lucky, and my dad was lucky too, and my whole family was. And thank you. It's really awesome to say.
Well, if you want to come up here, David, we have something we want to present to you.
I've never been up.
I know. As many meetings as you've been to and as many presentations that you've sat before, you probably have never been in this spot before. And we have a little something that we sent to you, but to say thanks. But we have this little proclamation that we've drafted as a board to recognize your efforts. And we might, after that 1962 date, we might be a little bit off. It's entitled Proclamation of Appreciation of David Laddie for his 34 years of service to Grand Lake Township. Whereas Laddie Law has been providing municipal counsel to Grand Lake Township since 1962. And whereas in 1990, David Laddie began representing Grand Lake Township in traffic court. And whereas in 1999, David began providing legal counsel to the Grand Lake Township Planning Commission. And whereas in 2004, David commenced representing Grand Lake Township as our overall general counsel. And during his years of service, he was committed to the Grand Lake community and played an important role in helping the township by providing professional legal services for its residents. And whereas after 34 years of service, he is retired from the township. And Attorney David Laddie, in addition to providing exceptional legal services and support of numerous elected and appointed officials throughout his tenure, has become a friend to Grand Lake Township and will forever hold a special place in our township history. And whereas David Laddie's last day of work here at the township is going to be December 31st, 2024, now therefore be it resolved that the Charter Township of Grand Lake declares its appreciation for David Laddie and his 34 years of service to Grand Lake Township. Congratulations.
Thank you. So I'm gonna go see my dad in January. We're gonna pour a glass of bourbon, we're gonna light a cigar, we're gonna toast our careers, or we're gonna toast Grand Lake Township's past, its present, and its future.
Well, thank you for all your help and your support. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Supervisor, I do want to remind you that I am going to ask the board to consider a closed session this evening.
Okay.
Mr. Supervisor, before we do that,
Yes.
could I have just a moment?
Sure.
I wanted to take a moment to add a little more to the accolades for David. I'm in my now starting my 25th year in elective office, and I'm going to say publicly what I've said to David privately over the last few weeks when I became aware of his intent to retire. Your career as our attorney and my career in public life is virtually parallel. I can't remember a time when you weren't an attorney for not only Grand Blanc Township, where I live, but for the vast majority of the communities that I had the fortune to and appreciation to represent as a member of the House of Representatives and the Senate. Atlas Township, Argentine Township, Davison Township, Grand Blanc Township. Am I missing any?
No, you got one.
Okay. And I just want to say that in all the capacities that I've had at every level, State House, State Senate, County Commission, and now here at the Township, I've deeply appreciated and really enjoyed very much working with you on behalf of all of my constituents then, and of course my constituents now here in Grand Blanc Township. And thank you so very, very much for your dedication to them and the good work that you've done for the good people of Genesee County for all those many years.
Well, thank you.
Okay. Very good. Thank you, Mr. Supervisor.
You're welcome. Okay, before we move on to going into closed session potentially, I just wanted to mention, right now, we have our next board meeting scheduled for December 20th, correct? And that meeting, I'm not sure we were clear on it, but we want to meet at noon on that date. I'm not sure if everybody can make that. If we can get forward, what's that?
I'm unable to make that day.
Okay, all right. Mr. Yancho, you think you'll be able to be here for that?
I'll be here.
Okay, we're basically just going to need to pay some bills, I believe, for that. So if we can get 4 board members. I don't know, did we have on the schedule the time of the meeting already, or? Okay, so if we make it at noon, we don't necessarily need to vote on that time.
No, I think it's already on the
The
schedule.
date's already,
I have a question. Tuesday,
Yes.
December 20th is not a date.
I'm sorry?
Is it Tuesday, December 20th? Because December 20th is
Friday.
Friday.
It's a Friday.
It's a
Oh,
Friday.
okay. It says, I wanted to make sure we had the right date on there.
We have different calendars. Thank you, Paul, for pointing that out.
We did have it as Tuesday.
Okay. With that, any business, Mr. Laddie, that you wanted to bring up?
Sure.
Okay. Mr. Limita?
I will ask the board to go into a closed session, and it's to discuss a written attorney's opinion pursuant to MCL 15.268, subsection 8, subsection 1. And it's really has to do with our discussion about, we're going to be without an attorney here in a couple of weeks, and we may need to have a conversation about how we're going to go about fixing that moving forward.
Okay. I'll make that motion that we go into closed session to discuss written opinion, is it? Attorney written opinion.
And I'll support that motion, Mr. Supervisor.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any
We are
opposed?
entering into closed session at 7:42 PM.
Okay, we'll take a 5-minute recess to,
Clear the room.
right?
7:42.